I'm Dakota and I'm a graphic designer here at AKU. And what up?
It's fine.
Okay.
Again, this is the Human Project, and it's an investigation on labels and the effects that those labels have on someone. So what label, if any, do you think the world has placed upon you? And then if you do have a label, how has that affected you?
My biggest label would probably be being a Christian, just because it affects how people expect me to behave in a response to things.
So can you give a little more explanation on that? Mainly, how has it personally affected you, do you think?
Okay, so personally, it's affected the way I kind of have to internally guard against certain things and kind of think before I do anything, because as a whole I'm supposed to represent Christianity and represent the religion, and so then it's kind of I don't know, you're associated with the group and you have to, anything you do that's wrong affects the group.
So do you feel like you're kind of having to live a dual life in a way? Whereas one part of your life you feel like you have to be a certain way because you have to live up to a certain type of standard because it's just what you believe in a way, but another form is just you kind of being yourself. Do you feel like those kind of combat against each other sometimes?
Yeah, which, according to the faith itself, that happens because it's your sinful nature and your Christ nature, but just you definitely, you either get, I don't know, I get alienated a little bit because I'm a Christian. It tends to I don't know, people think you're uppity.
Do you get alienated both within the people that identify with your religion as well as outside, do you feel?
Only in the religion area if you're doing something that's not within the religious standards. So if you're living more for yourself and more in your own way freely, there's some things that are considered taboo or foreign, that are sinful things. So then you get alienated for those, and then while at the same time you're trying to fit in and be successful in the world, you're also getting alienated by the world. So it's just this.
So you just feel like you can't fit in either aspect in a way?
Yeah. Or at least you have to kind of put on a little bit of a facade in either one to fit in.
Yeah, I've done that myself too. With before I came out, I put on this facade that I was straight, so I would act a certain way, and I would get really nervous if I would just give myself away. But I also identified as a Christian, but I'm now struggling with it. But I felt that back then, I felt the people that I was supposed to be a part of, as a family unit sort of thing within the church I was going to, I just don't felt like they really cared about me. I felt alienated too. Do you ever feel that way, or do you feel like it's just...
You start to feel like you can't, I start to feel like I can't go to those same people that are supposed to be the support group for some of the things that are, anything that you struggle with. There's certain mentality that you can't doubt or ask questions or challenge religion, and so then the label Christian, people think you just follow blindly, and you kind of have to sometimes.
But you're not that way though, right? You don't really follow blindly. You have your own thought. And so do you, I think I'll go with the next question. So you were saying that you kind of felt alone sometimes, but you can't talk about certain things. What do you mean by certain things? If you're comfortable talking about
that. Just since it's slightly old-fashioned, there are things that are newer in this world that are starting to get harder to grasp, where people have to question them, and so I've been one of those people to kind of question old traditions, and when you start questioning stuff, then you kind of are a one-man show questioning stuff, unless you get other people on board. So you just kind of feel isolated when I start, just, well, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Oh, it's tradition. Well, since when has it been tradition?
Do you feel like that tradition harms you in any way in terms of like your mental state, or just do you ever feel safe, or do you feel like it's inhibiting you from actually being yourself and loving yourself the way you are?
In a way, because for the longest time while I was learning it, there was so many rules and regulations that it was kind of like, if you did something wrong, there came this wave of guilt, there came this wave of shame, and then you just kind of start to feel like you did something wrong to alienate yourself from this loving God.
I used to feel that way too, because I struggled with the fact that I was attracted to men, and I was told all my life that it was wrong, and it made me really angry at myself in a way. Like I took a lot out of myself, because one way I was like, I can't be perfect, and so I was trying to make decisions that put me in the good light of God. So I, made decisions that seemed like it was supposed to be the right
those
decision.
decisions, I mean, just being raised, we tried to not have fun dating. Like, it wasn't fun, it was always for the purpose of marriage. So like, that's one example. Like, I haven't dated in that same, not really worldly, but that just date for fun. So now, I don't know, it feels like it kind of messes you, like I can't think of dating the same anymore.
Do you also feel like the label, people mistaken you, because, let me clarify that. So when I came out as gay and I still was practicing, people were like, how can you be gay and be Christian? And that kind of stuff. And that really bothered me. Have you ever experienced something like that?
Yeah, I've experienced that just when I'm doing stuff that I like to do, and people are like, well, why are you doing that? You're not being a Christian, you're not being a good Christian, you're not being a good role model, you're not, you're corrupting your witness, like, and that can be anything from just doing art to doing, watching certain shows. Those were considered sometimes bad. What would be another one? I haven't done it, but like kissing out of marriage, doing, any dating out of marriage is usually, like, it's almost like geared towards courtship mentality, stuff like that. It's just like, why are you doing this? That's not Christian-like. Like, you're not acting like a Christian. So
do you kind of feel like, I guess the label itself, it alienates you, but do you feel like because of that, on one end, you're not able to identify with anyone because you just, like, because I know that I felt other people that identified as Christian, I couldn't tell them the deepest parts of me. I couldn't tell them that I was gay because they would be like, "Oh, you're going to hell," or it was just really difficult coming out because the people that said they were there for me were not there for me. So that way it turned me away from religion, and it shouldn't have, but it did, and I'm working on my issues with that. But do you feel like sometimes that label itself sometimes pushes people away because of how some other people act?
I think so, yeah, because as soon as you say you're Christian, then it's almost like, I don't know, you're off limits to certain things. Like, oh, now that you're Christian, well, if I started dating you, then would I have to be Christian? Like, people start getting this mentality that they have to either that they have to convert in to get to know you, or that you're going to end up converting them, because that's the whole goal of Christianity.
So, I mean, I know that we've talked previously, I know there's some things that you're not comfortable sharing, but do you feel like the things that you're not comfortable sharing, do you think that the reason you're not comfortable sharing that is because of that label and because of the way that you're brought up?
Yeah, I mean, anything. Yeah, I just, growing up, I wasn't taught I can explore, I wasn't taught I can experiment with things. It was all very black and white, there was no gray areas, so anything I do that's non-traditional tends to get a bad light on it, so it's kind of...
So in terms of, like, masculinity and femininity, do you feel like being brought up as a Christian, do you feel like the idea was pushed that you have to be masculine all the time, you have to be the manliest man, that you have to be the provider and that kind of stuff, that you have to be masculine?
Yeah, definitely. You have to be the man of the house. Like, that's the role, so you have to be a good influence for any people, you have to take charge, you have to be dominant, which I'm not. Those are not my personal traits. It's not so much about being Christian, but that's just more being raised kind of to be very conservative and
So,
old
yeah.
tradition.
So like we talked about the effects that you have inside of other Christians and how you sometimes don't feel connected to them. Do you also feel like, you know, and explaining further of the label on the other aspect of people who aren't Christian, do you can you explain a little more about some of the reactions you get, even though the people know you personally and know what you go through and know what your personal preferences are? Do you feel like that Christian label to them it's contradictory, and if so, like how do you feel about that stuff?
Yeah, I've had some people that I was talking to them for a while, and then they would be like, I'd say I was Christian, like, oh, I never would have thought of that, and then it's like, it's a weird concept because then you're not fitting whatever their standard is of being a Christian.
And in reality, there really isn't a standard. You just have to
Right,
believe
so
the same
it's just-
thing.
So then by that, then you're like, oh, well, you know, for me, I always internalize that. It's like, oh, well, what am I doing wrong? But, you know, you could have different concepts of the same thing and it'd be completely different. But, I don't know, I've had mixed reactions with telling people that. They'll just be like, oh, okay, that's good. Or there'll be some people that they have that aversion to Christianity and they don't really want to associate with me as much because I'm a, you know, Christian. And then if I progress that I'm a Christian and I do something wrong according to their standard of what's being right for a Christian, then they like get on me about it.
And do you feel like the other things you identify with, do you feel like the people who identify also in that are uncomfortable that you're a Christian?
I think so, because I've seen a lot of them that are very anti-religions because it does do that, where it kind of isolates people and tells them that they're not the right people and that they're not valid. So when you say, it's almost like opposing teams, where it's like, if you say you're for both teams, they're like, well, you can't be for both, you have to pick one or the other. And it shouldn't be that separate.
No, I get that too. Like I was saying, when I came out and when I was told people I was Christian and gay, I know people even in the community were like, how can you be Christian and how can you do that? And they would bash my religion in front of me, and it's like, I'm not harming you in any way. I just have a belief that you don't have. And then for me, it kind of felt like I was being ostracized by people who identified as Christians, and I was ostracized by those who I didn't identify as that.
Yeah.
So in either way, it's like no one really cared to see me because of the label of gay. That label, I felt like, pushed every part of me away, and no one ever got the chance to know me, or never cared to get to know me. And so because of that, it led me down paths I didn't want to go down, and I just experienced things that I wish I hadn't experienced.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely there's been things that, you know, being a Christian is like, just the label of it, like I haven't experimented all that much, and the sheltered upbringing could have potentially caused an explosion of like trying to figure out who I am, because it's drilled into you who you are from the minute you're born, or as soon as you're into the religion, and it's just like, here's who you are, here's who you are. Who you are isn't really dependent on who you are, it's who God is. So
Do you feel like both sides are telling you who to be,
yes.
and that no one's allowing you just to be yourself and accept you for who you are?
I would agree with that, because both sides always seem to know what's best for me, and it's not always.
But they don't really know you like they should know you.
Yeah. Christianity, they'll tell me I need to be less because then God needs to be more. Everyone else will say, oh, you need to be more you and less Christianity because, you know, it's you need to be who you are and express every aspect of that. And if you're, you know, repressing any of that, then, you know, you're being scared or, you know, not fully being yourself. And it's this weird conflict of interests.
Do you think that wanting to be yourself is a conflict of interest too? Like, do you feel like that? I'm trying to remember the question. Like, I'm gonna relate back to me being gay. You know, do you kind of feel the same way that I felt? Whereas, like, I wanted to be myself, and I didn't see anything wrong with it, and I internally didn't feel anything was wrong with it, even though everyone was telling me that there was. Is that how you feel too?
I think there are times like that when I don't want to have to second guess everything I do, in case it, reflects badly on the label, or just, want to be able to hang out with people, not have to consider my witness all the time, and when I can't do those things, it just, I don't know. Being yourself in a way does conflict with being Christian, because they say you need to be less of you and project God more. But if you're made in His image, then it seems like being you would project.
That is how I felt, because I personally, I just don't see anything wrong with you being yourself. I think that you should be allowed to be yourself and be encouraged to be yourself. And that's part of what inspired this project too, is that no one ever told me that I could be myself and it'd be okay. And it harmed me in a way, and it made me a bitter, angry person. And I wish someone had told me that it's okay to be yourself. You don't have to do this double life.
I definitely feel like there's some experiences I've missed out on because, I've had to be more cautious, more careful with my whole life being a testimony to Christianity. So then, there's some things that just would be fun to experiment with, would be fun to just do, and they're considered taboo or anti-religious. So then they're going against the label everyone's telling me, and then that.
But you're also fighting conflict. What you really are, who you know you really are.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you'll ever be able to be completely open about who you are in terms of as a person, and just being able to be yourself without having to hide yourself?
I don't know, because then that's part of. I think I have to be able to love myself first. Because that's part of it, is whenever Christians make mistakes, since God can't change, it's always, our fault. So, for me, growing up, when everything was always my fault, living just anything that wasn't godly, that would put the blame on myself, put the shame on myself, and so then I learned to not listen to myself as much.
So you feel like that the label itself and what comes with it, and somehow people would just misinterpret it. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that misinterpretation has caused you to, in a way, not love yourself as much?
Mm-hmm. Just because the label comes with restrictions, and then so people restrict you down to a box. And
do you feel like maybe that idea is just maybe just an idea that you're brought up with, and maybe do you ever see yourself, I guess, breaking away from that and just thinking for yourself, and still, because for me, I know that, I do believe in something, and I believe that we're all made to be who we are, and that's not a mistake. I don't believe that me being gay is a mistake.
Ever since coming to college, I've kind of been starting to break out of it, and it hasn't been the religion I was raised in, it's been just me discovering Christianity for myself and actually seeing
without restrictions,
right? And actually going and seeing back and oh, this isn't actually like a taboo, or this isn't actually a thing. It was just more of how you were raised. It's not in the Bible anywhere, or it's not associated with Christianity. So yeah, I've been discovering stuff for myself and trying to get outside of that box.
So another question I have. I guess, what would you say to other Christians who also identify the way that you feel, whereas, they feel that maybe they don't get to express themselves because they're being told that their core is wrong? What would you say to them, I guess, in a way, to kind of help them?
Yeah. I don't know, because I've been learning about just the sheer amount of mercy and forgiveness that, God will have for people. And there's, I don't know, he wants, it's not about rules. That it shouldn't have never been about rules. So this whole concept, humans in general tend to like rules because it helps separate good from bad, helps separate, this group from this group. But they're not necessary anymore because, even Jesus was saying, just love God and love your neighbors. And those are the two rules that I narrowed it down to. So I mean, it's all about love and loving people and loving yourself, and then that salvation is just, that's all. Like, you don't need
Because the way that I also view it too is that if you can learn to love yourself, you can love someone else as well.
Mhm.
And I often sometimes feel that the reason people don't love someone else is because they can't love themselves. And so their hatred is a projection of how they feel about themselves.
Yeah.
You know, because I was bullied really bad as a kid. Were you ever bullied too, I guess?
That ever happens in my life.
I
Something
realized
to
that.
it.
But this is a chance for you just to open up, and
Yeah.
no one's judging you here. This is a safe space for you. This is a place where you get to just be yourself.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like you were ever given that. I don't feel like I was ever given that either.
Yeah.
So in terms of talking about the label again with Christianity, do you feel that the label itself inhibits you from really being yourself? In a way.
Yeah, it does, because it limits down what I can and can't do, and there's certain things I like to do that are against Christianity. So
Like, what are some of those things, if you're comfortable talking about it?
yeah, it's just a lot of things that are considered non-masculine, you know, like almost like artistic stuff too, like even just dyeing my hair, that was considered a, you know,
Which if you want to
taboo.
show your hair off, you can.
Yeah. I mean, I can't,
Green
but-
hair. I like your hair. I think it's
Yeah.
really good hair.
It's prevented me from like getting tattoos because I think they're really cool. I've always thought of, you know, getting piercings because those are really cool. Just accessories, like I like accessories, like accessorizing myself, kind of doing colors. So just ways to express myself that are just not considered Christian. So then when people tell me I'm Christian, I can't do them. So it's kind of,
Do you ever just think about doing it anyway?
there's
Just
a lot of
being
times to
yourself.
do, and usually when I do want to, I almost feel like I'm going against God, because
Do you feel like that because it's what you were taught, or do you feel like that because it's how you really feel?
kind of both, just because like it feels like rebellion against the way I was raised and brought up, and then also because that's integral to how I view God, it feels like it's rebelling against that. So like I'm being somebody different, like I'm not being myself.
I can tell you from personal experience that I experienced the same thing. It was, again, I was living two separate lives because one life was the one that everyone wanted me to live, and the other one was the one that I wanted to live, and the one that I felt like I was born to live. And so when I accepted that, and it was hard coming out, it was not easy, but when I did that, I felt like it was liberating. It was scary as all get out, but it was so liberating at the same time because I didn't have that fear of being judged about who I was and I didn't care anymore. All I cared about was what I thought. And I feel like ever since I've done that, it's opened the door to so many opportunities I never thought I would have. Like I never thought I'd be in college, you know, getting ready to graduate. I thought I was gonna die from suicide when I was a kid. I thought that was gonna be the end of me. Or I thought I was gonna get addicted to drugs or alcohol and that was gonna be the end of me.
Yeah. There's some things that are just, they're hard to trust that they're being myself. Like, because I've been doing stuff for so long with people telling me what to do, when I find something that I genuinely like and then get told 1,000 times that it's something wrong, you start to believe 1,000 times versus your internal gut of that you like to do it.
Would an example be maybe your nails? Would that be comfortable talking about that maybe?
Just even having longer ones. Because I pick my nails all the time and I hate it and it drives me nuts that I, desiccate my fingers and to the point where they bleed.
Because your nails are really beautiful.
And then just, I've found ways that would help me prevent that, and apparently that's wrong. So it's hard for me to get a grasp of that concept that doing something so trivial
that feels like you,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't feel wrong. It's hard to grasp that is wrong.
Yeah, because
I get
like
that.
it's so temporary. Like these pop off. I've already lost 2 of them.
And it's things that just help you feel. It just helps you feel better about yourself.
Yeah, and it's a way to express myself and a way to get some of my artistic drive out, and just, a happy color can make you feel happier. You can express how you're feeling down or depressed, and it's just.
Do you feel like that? Do you feel like you personally believe that makes you any less of a Christian?
I don't personally, because I feel it is a part of me that
Do you feel like other people feel that? People who identify as Christians and the people who don't identify as Christians, do you feel like they both believe that you doing that means that you're not a Christian?
I think Christians more so would, but then non-Christians will start to think, I don't know, they'll start to think that you're not like upholding the standards of Christianity like you're supposed to, and so then you're a lesser Christian, or you're more of just a follower, like.
So do you feel like even the people you identify with think less of you because you're a Christian? Or do you not feel that way?
Like they think less of me because I'm a Christian, or because I'm doing both?
Because you're doing both. Do they sometimes, I guess in a way, they don't understand you in a way.
Oh yeah.
Do you feel like because they don't understand you that sometimes causes problems for you in terms of how you view yourself and how you feel about yourself? And
yeah, because it's been called so many things. It's been called cross-dressing, it's been called gender fluid, it's been called non-binary, it's been called, just plain out sin. So whenever my Christian brothers and, my friends tell me that I'm not being a good enough Christian by doing that thing, it just hurts almost double, because it's like you're the people that are supposed to be supporting me. So in a way, it just almost isolates me from both groups, because I feel isolated when I can't do it around Christians, and then
you feel isolated when you do it around people.
when I do it around other people who aren't Christians, then the Christian part of me gets kind of hidden, and it feels like I can't be all of myself.
You feel like the world isn't allowing you to be both.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that we've discussed before, so do you feel more comfortable here at college expressing yourself in that way?
Oh yeah, because just people, I don't know if it's the younger generation, but people are just more open about stuff. They start to treat you like more of just a person, not so much on the labels.
So do you feel they're more accepting that you're gender fluid than they are that you're a Christian when you're here? Do you feel that way?
I think, yeah, they're more accepting of both. They're just more accepting of me.
Of you as a person?
And I've talked to people when I'm going around, and no matter what I do, people are always like, oh yeah, I don't see you as anybody different. You're just you, and that's just another side of you. So it's never been a error, a taboo, or a failure. It's just been, oh hey, I didn't know you had that side, so that's cool. Like,
do you feel the same way when you go home to your family and friends back home, or when you go to church? Do you ever feel like that? Do you feel like they accept you the same way, or do you feel like it's more difficult to be yourself?
I think.
And you feel like you have to put up that facade.
You have to put up the facade a little bit, because they're just not used to it. Like at church, I think me and only one other younger girl have colored hair, so that's already like you're a minority at a minority. So it's
by your appearance.
Yeah. So a lot of it is based on appearance, which it shouldn't be. But I've always been raised in non-denominational churches where it doesn't matter as much on looking sharp and dressing nice.
So would you say you feel the major conflict with religion itself is just the label of whatever you identify as your denomination? Do you feel like the denomination labels are what cause so much conflict inside of the religion itself as well as outside of the religion? Because I know personally, I don't really want to define myself. I do have a belief, but I don't want to say that it's a certain belief, because I feel like these denominations are just a scope. I feel like they're man taking the truer purpose, the truer nature, and making it fit their own lives, and then telling you that you're wrong if you don't follow that. Do you feel the same way? I
think the denominations are definitely not how it was intended.
So we were talking about the label. you feel like the label that you identify with right now, that's the core of you, is Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about how you feel it conflicts with who you are as a person, and so you feel like you have to be two different people. You have to feel like you have to be the Christian Dakota as well as the actual Dakota.
Yeah.
And you're having a hard time finding the two to mesh together to be Dakota.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because life, different people expect different things, and I actually learned, as growing up, I learned how to be whoever anybody wanted me to be for each group. So there's multiples. Like, there was whatever group I was in, there's this version of me at this group, this version of me at that group, this version of me at this group, and then part of the stress is trying to keep all of that in order and figure out, so this friend's from here, so they don't know this, and then kind of like different levels of how deeply somebody knows me. So it's really hard to juggle that.
So do you feel like, on one end, people know you as gender fluid, so do you feel like people that identify with, they know you on that aspect? Do you feel like they know the other aspect of you with your religion and how you identify with that? Do you feel like they know that part too?
I think they know that a little bit better. Like, they know a more complete version of me here just because I've been able to be myself.
So you're able to be both a Christian and gender fluid. So you're able to be both. So you don't feel like you can be that at home?
Not really, because it's just the Christian version and
the part you have to hide.
Yeah, and interests I have to hide, and just things that intrigue me, and knowledge I have to hide. So it's kind of like, I'm good at this, I know how to do this, but I can't share that, and I can't explain that, because as soon as one little part shows, it feels like the entire iceberg hidden under the water will have to be revealed, and that's a super overwhelming thing to share. I
felt that way too before I came out. Like, the smallest thing, even the type of music I like, I really loved Lady Gaga. So I remember one time when I was in high school, I hadn't came out yet. I didn't come out until I kind of college, but we were in high school, my phone went off and it played Bad Romance, and I was like, oh shit, people heard me listen to that, they're gonna know that I'm gay. And I was bullied severely at the place I lived in before because of my sexuality. I hadn't came out yet, but I was bullied severely for that. And I was beat up for it, called names, like you name it, it happened. So in my mind, the tip of the iceberg being found out and seeing the rest of it was going to cause the rest of what happened to me to happen again. I felt like I was going to get bullied again. I felt like I was going to get beat again. I felt like I wasn't safe. I didn't feel safe. For even that one instance of some song that came on made me feel that way.
Yeah, there's little stuff like that. Like, even just, there's no freedom to explore anything, so you worry, like, if I want to color my hair pink, well, that's instantly a feminine color.
So you feel like even coloring your hair pink would reveal your family
I have to
that
avoid,
you are
yeah,
fluid.
so I have to avoid almost like all femininity, which there's natural, like, I'm not naturally just this macho guy. I'm sensitive, I listen to people. I mean, a lot of people come to me with their problems, and that's part of it. I can't have my own problems.
So you don't feel like anyone lets you come to them with your problems?
Yeah, so it's kind of a one-way street with a lot of people, and I've learned to really help other people, but not help myself.
Just having to help yourself.
So.
No, I felt that way too sometimes. It's hard too, because it's like, if I feel like I have something I want to talk about, I can't, because I'm listening to somebody else and they don't care to listen to me. No, I totally get that. So, do you feel like, what was I saying with the other person? How do you think that we can ease conflict, the most conflict that happens? How do you think that can be eased as human beings?
I think, as far as conflict, it always comes down to somebody's interpretation of a label, and so they come into the situation and they have this preconceived notion of what you're going to be like, and then they don't take
before
the time.
They even get to know you.
Yeah, and they don't take the time to actually get to know you, and whatever label they decide for you, well, that just ends up generalizing who you're supposed to be and causes you to kind of want to fit that label of that initial label, because if you start doing anything outside of that, then they almost get confused and are like, wait, you're not this. I thought you were this, and now you're this. So nobody takes the time to listen to each other.
And do you feel like that's what causes most conflict, is they're just not listening?
Yeah, I think so. Or just really strict ideas of what people can be and what they can't be.
So relating back to the religion aspect of how you identify with that, do you feel like because of those restrictions on what a Christian is supposed to be, that it really inhibits you from actually living a fulfilled life in ways? In terms of like I know that some people aren't comfortable gospeling to the community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't at first when I was younger. I didn't really identify with that. So, I've met people in the community who have this terrible view of religion or terrible view of things like that. And yes, there are people who ostracize people in the name of God or in the name of whatever they believe in. But there's people that also do it without having a name for it. And I feel like they're only focusing on the people that are negative. So they don't give people like you who identify in a religion, but also have more to you than just that label that they don't want to get to know.
Yeah, definitely the label of Christian comes with a lot of baggage of past Christians, past behaviors, past people, past.
And if they would just get to know you, they would know that you're nothing like them.
Right. So then, as soon as they hear that, it's always associated with their experiences, what Christians they've came across, and if that's negative, then
they think of you automatically as being negative.
Mm-hmm. Or I mean, it works both ways if it's positive, but then still. They're not getting to know
pre-assumption.
You.
They're not getting to know real you.
Their past experiences.
So my last question: what do you think it means to be human?
I mean, everyone. The way I was raised, everyone was created by God to be loved. He wants to basically be in a relationship with everyone, and I feel just everyone in the world just has this journey to go through while they're here to kind of learn who they are and what they want to do. So human is, I don't know, human's a very wide term.
But it's a very real term.
It is a very real term.
Because the whole idea of our discussion is that no one's getting to know that you're human, so...
Yeah.
And the idea of this project, too, is that, like I was saying in my last interview, I'm not asking anyone if they have a label that they identify with. Like, I know that another friend of mine identifies as a black female, and that label empowers her. But the conversation that we had was just taking that and putting it in a different focus and ways and in different situations, so that way... Yeah. That's not all that she is. People get to know her for her, not just for being a black female.
Yeah, there's so many things that divide humans up. I mean, we shouldn't, it should be that one common cause, like everyone's human, but because we don't have any other outside. So
are you saying what the way you brought up being human is just the journey that you have to go on? Mm-hmm. And just to live, what is your definition, or do you feel like your definition is the same, or your view on what being human is the same?
Yeah, so it's a really weird idea because growing up, it's always been that this life's like the first one before eternity, so you're just kind of like passing through this world, which sounds really crazy, but it's become an actual kind of reality for me. So I don't tend to seek success and seek fame and all that stuff because it's just not worth it. So I guess it's kind of being human is enjoying the life that you've been given, and then also, according to religion, it's using your life to spread Christianity and tell more people about God and who He is. But
is that what you as Dakota think too?
I definitely want to share the relationship that I've had with Him, and people can make their own choices. Because
do you care to elaborate on the relationship that you have with Him? Because I feel like most people who are do identify in a certain religion, they don't really talk about their relationship, so they're not really. I think that some people just get the misguided view of what that relationship entails and what being a believer and whatever you believe in is, and I feel like sometimes that is what causes people to stray away from it. So, would you be able to elaborate on the positive experiences that having this relationship has given you?
Yeah, my relationship with God, at first, it used to just be he was a judge, and that was the only thing I ever got from him. But
Is that because it's what you were taught?
just all the do's and don'ts and all the rules, and whenever you make a mistake, then it's instantly your fault because it's, God doesn't change and he's perfect. But then I've started to come to know him more as a father figure, which, father's the kind of person who, which is hard for some people because they don't necessarily have a good father, but it's supposed to be the person that takes care of you, the person that you can come to with any problem, and he's become almost more of a father to me because I can talk to him whenever, he's around me whenever, gives me that peace. I know I have a supporter, even though sometimes it is scary to go to him because he does know everything. So
do you feel that in a way, I guess you could say that relationship has made you feel less alone when you felt alone because if you're talking about the label of Christian itself, you said that made you feel lonely sometimes, the label itself did. So do you feel like your relationship with God in a way, or how you view it, has made you feel less alone despite that label?
Yeah, I would say that because the label of Christian kind of restricts you, but the relationship, you can never go, you can never reach the end of the relationship.
And would you say the label is just, in my opinion, I think it's human beings themselves making a label that they feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And so the whole idea of this part of labels, I feel like in that aspect of religion, I feel like when it comes to labels and religion, I feel like it prohibits you from living a fulfilled life. I feel like it prohibits you from spreading the word or from doing anything you need to according to religion. I feel like it hurts people because I know personally that I've been turned away by some people. I know people who have been turned away. And I know people like yourself who identify in the religion itself that are ostracized with people who are supposed to be there for you. And so, I think the label itself, people just focus too much on that, and they really just don't get the entire idea of it. They just miss the whole point.
Yeah.
So what would you say, in your opinion, is the whole point of why you practice this or why you identify with this?
So far it's about all I know. So it's kind of just been, I really like a lot of the concepts that come from it, and there are really good fundamental morals that you can follow, and gives you the benefit of somebody there for you whenever you need them, and kind of gives you hope that you don't have.
It's just having a genuine connection with someone.
Yeah, and
would you feel that that's what makes us human, is being able to have that interaction, that genuine connection with someone?
Yeah, just people bonding with each other and, getting rid of kind of all the labels that box people up and actually really getting to know them and, becoming more of a unified group because there really is no need for all the division.
And like I said before, really this project is an exploration of how that label boxes you in. So it's sharing your experiences, whether they be positive or negative, and just giving everybody the whole story, and I feel like if people come to this project or even just approach each other and say, I'm human, and both people realize that, I feel like two people that are taught to hate each other can learn to love each other in a way. And maybe stories like mine or yours will be less common, where it's less of us hating ourselves, it's less of us feeling like we're not good enough. It's more of people feeling they're good enough, people feeling they're loved. If they would just understand that they're human and they have a connection, if they would just look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Because that's why I hate race and stuff and all that, because it's just, even denominations of the church are just more division, more fracturing of, these wonderful communities that people can actually get together and have a common ground and can talk about stuff. And then even just getting to know things back home. I was raised in a very sheltered, here's all your Christian friends at church, here's all the Christian friends at co-op. There's no new points of view into the dynamic to challenge you, to make you think, or to get you kind of a different perspective. So it's always
So
the
would
same
you say that
perspective.
you're hoping to model your life as you're still following that and following the Word of God, but you're doing it in a way that's more progressive and in a way might reach more people in your own way?
Yeah, I think so.
Because like you said, it's more of a relationship, and relationships don't have rules.
Yeah.
It's just how you feel. And it's
It's
about
how you
accepting each
feel, and
other.
it's how you. There's so many different ways. People are made so many different incredible ways that it's just like one way to express a love for a creator will be completely different than the way I could do it. Or, this one person may have this amazing gift that they can use that I'm terrible at. So it's like.
And I look at it that way too. I feel like you have a very unique aspect on life. I feel like you can identify with something that isn't so common, and I feel like you're able to give insight to that.
Yeah.
They're human beings too, and that you need to treat them like they're human beings,
Yeah.
and accept them for who they are, and then they should accept you as well.
Yeah, because everybody's struggling to figure out who they are. So it's just while they're going through that, trying to figure out who they are, it doesn't help to have somebody knock you down and tell you who you aren't. You always just need somebody to kind of come along and just help be there for you.
So I think that covers everything. One more question too. What would be your hope for this project, if you had any, or if you had maybe an idea of what it could be? What would you hope it would do?
I think it would be helpful for people to see multiple perspectives, because then that helps challenge their way of thinking and can kind of get people out of those box labels and not just generalizing people, but actually realizing that every person has their own story, which is fascinating to me, because it's just, you could spend so much time getting to know somebody else's story and just how they were raised and how they grew up and how it influenced.
And they can inspire you in a way.
Yeah, so just sharing those stories, I hope, will help people see that everybody has a story.
And that it matters, and every story matters.
Yep.
Because I've even getting to know you even through this project, I feel like I've gotten to know you even more. And I feel like I've kind of found a new appreciation for you, and I feel like, we have more common ground to stand on in terms of before we came in here.
Cool. It's always good.